Next on the news, roughly half of the country is in limbo, with courts pushing back. The legal status of abortion is still uncertain, nearly a month after the Supreme Court overturned Roe. Pope Francis making history yet again. This time he's chosen women to help him pick future bishops. Time to lift once again as the Giglio celebrations continue in Brooklyn. It's almost over, but you can still catch a couple more. Plus this.
We expect it to basically transform our understanding of the universe.
Scientists astounded at the new images of God's creation, courtesy of NASA's latest technology. I'm Michelle Powers. Current News starts right now. We're supposed to be living in a post-Roe America, but abortion access is far from settled. The legal status is changing day by day across the United States. 2 more courts just pushed back on state restrictions, plus Congress and the Biden administration are taking steps too. More state courts are weighing in on abortion access, and the federal government is too. In Louisiana, abortions just became legal again, and in Minnesota, a judge declared restrictions on them unconstitutional. Let's take a look at the rest of the country in this post-Roe era. Bans and restrictions are likely in these states, in limbo in these others, and already in place in these areas. Of course, people can travel across state lines for the procedures, but some worry about stronger pro-life measures.
As an African American, what I hear when I hear that is fugitive slave laws.
In a Senate committee hearing yesterday, a witness pushed back when asked why she doesn't call all people who can get pregnant women.
Your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence.
Senator Josh Hawley bristled at the characterization. House and Senate committees are discussing abortion once again today. That as the Justice Department announces a reproductive rights task force. It's to safeguard things like patient privacy and access to medication abortion. This has pro-life advocates worried. Some Republicans would rather see the ban on protests at the homes of the Supreme Court justices enforced.
I've called on the Justice Department to enforce the law and protect the justices and their families.
Other lawmakers say they're concerned about other rights the High Court might strip away.
There is more to come.
The barrage of court filings means that for roughly half of the country, the legal status of abortion is still uncertain. That's a month after the Supreme Court overturned Roe. More now on those bills aimed at boosting abortion rights. The House will vote on them this Friday. One would protect a woman's right to travel to seek an abortion, and the other, which the House has already passed before, calls for the codification of abortion rights into federal law. The bills are not expected to win the 10 Republican votes needed to pass the Senate. For the first time, a pharmaceutical company is asking for permission to sell a birth control pill over the counter. If approved by the FDA, O-Pill from HRA Pharma would become the first daily contraceptive pill in the nation to be available without a prescription. However, some health officials have voiced concerns, saying the move could steer patients away from coming in for their routine exams.
That may not be in their best interest to miss those exams where we can hopefully find things ahead of time.
HRA Pharma says the timing of its application is unrelated to the decision. Globally, more than 100 countries provide oral contraceptives without a prescription, making the U.S. one of the few countries to require one. However, the Catholic Church condemns the use of unnatural methods of birth control. It does approve of natural family planning when there is sufficient reason to avoid or postpone pregnancy. According to a study conducted by the Kaiser Family Foundation, having a baby in the U.S. costs around $20,000. And while most of that is covered by insurance, many mothers still have to pay nearly $3,000 out of their pocket for their pregnancy, birth, and postpartum treatment. The study also found that women who had C-sections paid 77% more than those who gave birth naturally. And that's a lot of money for people who don't necessarily have it. So in order to help them choose life, New York's bishops are making a promise. Ahead of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, they sent out a message to moms in need, saying, "We will not abandon you." promising that any woman, regardless of beliefs or situation, can go to the Catholic Church to get the services and support she needs to carry her baby to term. To find those churches and a pro-life center near you, just go to nyscatholic.org/help for moms. The bishops hope this initiative will prove to those who doubt that the church is more than just pro-birth. Also tonight, a first for women everywhere.
È per me un onore e una gioia.
Hear that? That's one of the voices that will have a say in naming the next bishops. Voices that will have the Holy Father's ear. Right now on Currents News, an inside look at the Pope's picks. The Holy See's press office announced the picks on Wednesday. That's just 10 days after the Holy Father said he would name 2 women to the group that helps him choose bishops from all over the world. He actually announced 3. Justin McClellan has the story from the Vatican.
Pope Francis has named 3 women to the dicastery of bishops, the Vatican body responsible for overseeing the selection of new bishops. They are the Salesian Sister Yvonne Rengaud of France, Superior General of the Salesian Sisters of Don Bosco, who in 2019 was appointed as one of the first 7 female members of the Congregation for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life. Italian Franciscan Sister Raffaella Petrini. In November, she was named the 2nd highest ranking official of the Vatican city-state, and among her first duties was inaugurating the Vatican's nativity scene in St. Peter's Square, which came from Peru.
È per me un onore e una gioia poter avviare formalmente il mio servizio come segretario generale del Governatorato dello Stato della Città del Vaticano proprio in questa occasione.
And laywoman Dr. Maria Lia Zervino, president of the World Union of Catholic Women's Organizations. The group is responsible for submitting proposals of new bishops to the Pope for approval, and now, for the first time, the voices of women will be included in forming them.
That was Justin McClellan reporting. While the 3 women will have a big say in how bishops are chosen, they are only part of the process to elect new shepherds in the church. It's a lengthy undertaking, often taken 8 months or more to complete it, and it starts with the bishops themselves. Every bishop may submit to the archbishop of his province his recommendations. The archbishop then will usually distribute the candidates' names to all the bishops of the province, and at their annual meeting, a vote is taken. That makes a provincial list. It's then up to the apostolic nuncio, the Pope's representatives for that country, to oversee the final list of names, including gathering facts and information about the candidates. That info will then go to the dicastery, who reviews it and makes their own recommendations. Their thoughts, including any doubts or questions, go straight to the Pope, and he makes the ultimate decision. Pope Francis' choice then goes back down to the dicastery and then to the nuncio, who contacts the candidate to ask if he will accept the appointment. Turning now to President Biden, who touched down in Israel today, the first stop on a high-stakes journey. The second leg, Saudi Arabia. He's under pressure to bring down gas prices that have severely damaged his approval ratings. Jen Sullivan is taking a closer look at what this trip could mean for foreign relations.
The president's visit to the kingdom has drawn criticism, given that U.S. intelligence has deemed Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman responsible for ordering the death of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi, something Biden was extremely critical of during his campaign. While ambitions are set high for foreign relations, troubles at home are weighing him down. A recent New York Times poll asked voters if they thought the U.S. was on the right track. 89% of Republicans and 63% of Democrats say the country is headed in the wrong direction.
We understand that families are hurting right now. That is why the president has been laser focused on making sure that we truly deal with inflation.
The president believes that the price of gas is too high and that we need to do more with respect to global energy supplies.
He'll also visit the West Bank, where he'll meet with the Palestinian Authority president.
We have to work on increasing the prospect for peace in the region, for Israel's integration into the region, for the war in Yemen, as I mentioned before, for energy and food security.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Speaking of inflation, the United States has now reached a high that they haven't seen in 40 years. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported Wednesday that consumer prices rose 9.1% in June compared to last year. That's the highest rate since 1981. Analysts say gas prices played a major factor in June's spike, with the national average rising about $5 per gallon in much of the U.S. last month. If inflation woes are hurting your ability to find an affordable meal, the tablet is here to help. The paper has compiled a list of food pantries affiliated with Catholic charities in Brooklyn and Queens, located all throughout the diocese. Just last year, these pantries helped to distribute more than 1 million meals to more than 100,000 people. And if you would like to give back, you can also find a list to find a pantry near you to donate non-perishable food supplies. Also in this week's paper, a story of faith from China. A nun who now lives in Queens says it was her mother's wish for her to enter into the novitiate and serve God. But while Martina was discerning, she asked God for a sign and ended up with blurry vision. What happens next will have you believing in the power of miracles. So to read these stories, just go to your local church and pick up a copy of the tablet. And for future editions, you can get them sent straight to you. Just subscribe at thetablet.org. It's one of the most visited pilgrimage sites in the world, but tonight parts of Lourdes Shrine are off limits. A fire has destroyed half of the chapels of light. According to officials, the flames were started by a candle that was knocked over by the wind. 4 of the 8 chapels of light, which are one of the quietest places for recollection, were destroyed along with the statue of Our Lady. The French shrine says thankfully there were no injuries and pilgrims will still be able to pray in the chapels. They estimate the damages at a little more than $1.5 million. There's a lot more news headed your way. Outrage from victims of the families after the release of new surveillance video from the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. 2 shark attacks in 2 weeks just outside of New York City. Would you go back in the water? And the brother of a Brooklyn native and soprano star celebrating a funeral mass to say his final farewell. New outrage in Uvalde tonight. We have surveillance footage from the massacre back in May. The video is fueling intense criticism over law enforcement's delayed actions during the gunman's rampage. Isabel Rosales breaks down the footage for us, and a warning, some of the images may be disturbing.
That disturbing and fateful day inside Robb Elementary on display in a leaked surveillance video.
The kids are running!
An edited version shows a 911 call from a teacher. The gunman enters the school armed with a semi-automatic rifle. Within moments, he starts shooting. Minutes later, responding officers retreat and take cover from gunfire. More heavily armed officers arrive, but still, they wait.
They just didn't act. They just didn't move.
The video shows how officers waited more than 70 minutes before confronting the shooter.
Even a single officer has the responsibility to go stop the killing, and that did not happen.
Despite the key revelations, some are outraged by the leak of the video, slated to be viewed privately by the victims' families in a few days.
Who do you think you are to release footage like that of our children?
The way that video was released today is one of the most chicken things I've ever seen.
What about the cops? Are they chicken?
We're going to handle that.
From Texas to Capitol Hill, emotional demands for answers and accountability.
What if I had taken her home after the award ceremony? What if the doors had just locked properly? What if the police had immediately engaged the subject?
Isabel Rosales, Currents News.
There are still no updates in the attempted arson attack on a Catholic church in Maryland, but the pastor there is speaking out. He believes they were targeted because of their pro-life agenda.
This is one of the manifestations of the deep divisions right now within our country. That there are those who believe that we do not have even the right to practice our faith.
Thankfully, there was no structural damage to the church, but several statues were overturned and the Stations of the Cross were torn down. The tabernacle did not catch fire. However, its doors were pried open and the consecrated hosts were thrown to the ground. The NYPD says they caught him, the suspect who attacked 3 homeless people in Manhattan. Police say 40-year-old Trayvon Murphy was on a rampage, stabbing 3 people in the stomach during an 8-day span. Officials arrested Murphy, who is also homeless, after he was spotted in Harlem wearing the same shirt and neon sneakers seen in this video. NYPD Commissioner Keishan Sewell spoke more about the suspect's background.
Once again, this is a story we have told many times before. This suspect should not have been on our streets. He was already convicted in Tennessee and given probation, which he violated, and he was wanted on an outstanding warrant for that violation.
Murphy was already due in court next week for punching a roommate at a Queens shelter back in April. He's expected to be charged with murder and attempted murder for his latest attacks. And stay out of the water. Long Island now has had 2 shark attacks in 2 weeks. The surf at Smith Point Beach was off limits until 1:30 p.m. Wednesday after a 41-year-old surfer suffered a 4-inch gash to the leg from what he says was a 4-foot-long tiger shark. The first incident happened earlier this month when a lifeguard was bit in the chest and hand during a training exercise. Experts say Long Island shores are seeing more sharks due to cleaner oceans, warmer water temperatures, and a resurgence of bunker fish. Now to some good news. Nearly 24 people are getting their chance to finally attend college this fall, and it's all thanks to a franchise owner in California. Brisha Collin has more on how just a little help can change lives. Let's just say they're loving it.
Meet Mohammed Abdullah. He is going into his 3rd year at Cal State Monterey Bay, majoring in molecular biology and a minor in business. His dream? To be a physician's assistant and give to his local community here in Salinas.
It's kind of personal why I would want to go to the medical field, but my grandma went through a medical issue, and for us, I felt like I really couldn't do anything to help her.
Abdullah came to the U.S. in 2012 from Yemen, attended Everett Alvarez High School, and is the first in his family to attend college.
It kind of impacted me in a way that it was like the stepping stone for me to go into college, to do something that my parents have never done, and I am also a first-generation student, so it means a lot. It definitely means a lot.
Abdullah, a McDonald's employee, has earned a total of $15,000 from the Raymond Costa Family Scholarship Foundation.
Almost all of our crew go to school somewhere, and they're making their lives better, and I'm happy to be part of that. Every year we look forward to announcing the new candidates or the people that got the scholarships, and sometimes it's the only scholarship they get is from me and our foundation.
This year they awarded 21 scholarships to student employees or employees' children to attend college in amounts ranging from $1,500 to $5,000. For Costa, this is personal. Growing up working in the fields, losing his father at a young age, he makes it his mission to give back to others.
That was Brisha Collin reporting. The Raymond Costa Family Foundation has been giving out scholarships since 2017. Altogether, they have provided nearly $350,000 to 120 employees. It was a somber farewell to a beloved actor. Soprano star Tony Sirico was laid to rest in Brooklyn Wednesday. Sirico, best known for his role as Paulie Walnuts, passed away at the age of 79 Friday. His funeral was held in his hometown neighborhood of Bensonhurst at the Basilica of Regina Pacis. Tony's brother, Father Robert Sirico, celebrated the funeral mass and acknowledged all of his loyal fans who came to pay their respects. The late actor was then buried at Calvary Cemetery in Queens. Still to come on Currents News, a Brooklyn tradition gets yet another boost. The Giglio will be lifted skyward once again tonight as the celebration rolls on. And breathtaking new images of deep space, courtesy of NASA's latest piece of technology and the power of God. A big Brooklyn tradition is carrying on tonight, all 4 tons of it. Parishioners at Our Lady of Mount Carmel are once again parading St. Paulinus through the streets of Williamsburg. That's the Giglio, a 70 52-foot tower adorned with the patron saint of Nola, Italy, and it's the highlight of the 12-day-long feast, and tonight is the much-loved nighttime lift. It's a neighborhood tradition spanning back generations. Backbone Williamsburg was populated by mostly Italian immigrants. And the man behind the festivities, the church's pastor, Monsignor Jamie Gigantiello, says it's also a way of reconnecting people to the faith.
And really what it does, it connects them to their loved ones who have died. That is so, they see their parents and grandparents walking down the street holding their hands. When you lift that Giglio, they remember, their loved ones who aren't here anymore, and they're right next to them. They lift that Giglio in their honor. I think people should come to the feast to experience the spirit of faith, to experience faith in a different way, bringing our faith into the streets, celebrating our traditions.
The feast has been around since 1903, and this year it took more than 100 lifters to carry it. There's still time to take Monsignor Jamie's advice and join in on all this fun. So the last time you could go, on Saturday, July 16th, Bishop Emeritus Nicholas DeMarzio will celebrate the Feast Day Mass at Our Lady of Mount Carmel at 2 o'clock. And finally, the festivities will all wrap up on Sunday, July 17th, with the Old Timers Lift at 3 o'clock. If you've never been out there, you just have to go. It is a Brooklyn tradition that truly cannot be missed. But if you can't make it to this year's feast, then be sure to pick up this week's edition of the Tablet newspaper. In it, you can find the scenes of all the fun and the festivities, as well as a personal story of how the tradition brought one man closer to God, plus a new mural painted in the parish hall that is a life-size rendition of the feast so that parishioners can celebrate the summer activities all year long. Again, you can find all of that and more in this week's edition of the Tablet newspaper. So be sure to go to your local church to pick up your own copy or subscribe at thetablet.org. Now for something else you just have to see, a view that is truly out of this world. NASA unveiled the first full-color image from its newest telescope, and God's creation doesn't disappoint. Amy Kiley has the story on why this technology has even the biggest space enthusiasts excited.
This changes everything, sort of.
We expect it to basically transform our understanding of the universe.
He's talking about the James Webb Space Telescope and what it can reveal.
You're seeing galaxies that are shining around other galaxies, and you're seeing just a small little portion of the universe.
NASA says the telescope captures the deepest images of the universe humans have ever seen. This galaxy cluster is shown as it appeared about 4.6 billion years ago.
What I have seen just moved me.
Frankly, got emotional.
The telescope doesn't just peek into a galaxy far, far away. It looks back in time.
This telescope is exquisitely tuned to observe galaxies forming at the origin of the universe.
That's because it shows stars so distant they might not even exist by the time their light reaches the telescope. In fact, by then, much of that light has stretched into infrared waves, invisible to us, but not to Webb.
Over the 13.5 billion years that the light has been traveling, the universe has been expanding.
And liftoff. That's why the telescope is launching a whole new way to gaze at the stars. I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Truly out of this world. And that is Currents News. I'm Michelle Powers. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.